Welcome back to Dooley's Dog Pod. I'm Donna Trailer.
I'm Noah Bice.
And this is a podcast where we talk about everything that happens on Dooley Field in Sanford Stadium with
Your Georgia Bulldogs.
There we go.
Let's go! Yes! Yes!
Finally got it right. This time around, we were talking about something that's not going to happen on Dooley Field in Sanford Stadium, though, because guess what? It's an away game. Again. I feel like we've been away this entire year.
It's because we were away like 3 times
I
2
know.
years ago or something.
Yeah. So, we're going to Ole Miss, and it should be interesting, to say the least. We're coming off Florida, and speaking of, we haven't seen y'all in 2 weeks because we figured we gave a 2-parter that was pretty lengthy, so we might as well just take the week off and let everybody just start building for Florida game.
It was bye week. We were in the film room.
Yeah.
Getting reps in.
Bye week, the week we posted. And so we were like, you know what? We'll have one of those stand for Florida. That game went, I wouldn't say as expected by any means.
I think 34-20 was the score that I score predicted you on a few years ago.
That's funny.
I saw that and I was like, I've seen that score somewhere. I'm not sure about that, but I think it was. It was pretty close.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Doesn't count though. Anyways.
It was a 2-parter.
Yeah.
It was all the years forward.
I'm screaming. We should have at least sent our score predictions to each other though, because that would have been funny even though we didn't do the podcast.
Yeah.
But we didn't think about it. It is what it is. You live and you learn. So, what are your kind of overall thoughts on the Florida game?
Weirdly calm. One of my friends from the Hall of Fame texted me and goes, "The Dogs are going down in the swamp?" ? And I was like, no, this happens every week. Like, I've been a Georgia fan for too long to be worried about this. Like, every single week, I will get texts and group texts of, "What's going on? Oh my God, Georgia's not destroying them. What? We look awful." Which, to be fair, we looked worse this week than we have in previous years when we say that. But, yeah, I was like, no, dude, we do this every week. We're going to come back in the second half and win. And he was like, nah, bro. And then however many plays later, Lagway gets hurt. And I'm like, there it is. That's what changes it. And we started to play well. And also, have you seen the close-up of the guy, the third string on the sideline? Mm-mm. He's just like, the camera pans him, and he's in his helmet, just like, so excited for his opportunity. And it is like so silly because he played so bad. But to be a third-string freshman quarterback, good for him.
I mean, I don't think he really played that bad. I mean, like, it could have obviously been better.
Yeah.
But, like...
That's fair.
You know what I mean?
He did what he needed to do. I don't think anybody expected him to win it. I am always afraid of when quarterbacks get hurt and come in because of, like, what was it, Bryce Young, Jalen Hurts, or Tua, or somewhere in that 3. I think Tua comes in for Hurts.
Yes.
And beats us. And so every time that happens, I'm terrified in some capacity. But overall, I thought it was a pretty decent week. I think Carson Beck has got to clean up interceptions. I kind of joked with my friends and said, look, he averages 2 interceptions a game. So he just went ahead and threw the second one, so it's impossible for him to throw any more. Fast forward, 3rd interception. And I'm like, oh, okay, he's going off script. Yeah.
He's going off script.
So I will shout out Professor Michaelis for this. Her football analysis of it was, over time, other football teams have finally figured out Georgia's offense in some capacity that they had not in previous years. And so now Carson Beck is having to look for option C more often than he previously was in other years. Last year, I guess, technically for his starting time. And I brought up to the point of, well, the other fact is we don't have the greatest tight end to ever grace college football, and not having a bad rookie season so far. He's leading receptions, I think, in the league total amongst all wide receivers.
Tight ends.
Oh, just tight ends. But amongst all tight ends. Yeah, definitely the best in fantasy. Tearing it up for me.
Me too!
Yeah. And
thanks, GM.
You're welcome. Take that, GBSM Fantasy League. I live in your head. But to which she pointed out, Professor Michaelis pointed out, Brock Bowers, we've seen a lot of balls this year be behind, low, high, in front, like too far in front, to where Brock Bowers was really good about creating space in field and could move his body and work with what he was given. And when he had a pass that was behind him, he caught it. And now that we are without him, and even without Ladd, who is another impressive talent, we're players who can make it work. We're seeing that Carson Beck is sometimes forcing passes. There should have been 4 interceptions, and I feel like every week we're saying there should have been more. He's making bad calls, bad reads. One of the reads, even if it passed the first guy, the second guy would have intercepted it. And if it passed the second guy, the third guy would have intercepted it. It's throwing it in triple coverage. So he's got to figure it out. My joking reason for him playing bad is that he started dating one of the Cavender twins, and since then he's played bad. I liked the leg sleeve theory, but he played good against Texas in a white leg sleeve, so that has officially been debunked.
I mean, I would go...
Good, he won.
It got debunked because he wore black leg sleeves against Florida.
And then he played bad.
He played horrible.
Yeah, maybe stop wearing leg sleeves.
Literally, he walked out on the field because I went to the game. Walked out on the field, and I go, "Oh my God!" I grab my phone. I text Sandy immediately. I'm like, "Girl!" She's like, "What?" I'm like, "The black leg sleeves are back." She's like, "Yes!" And then 20 minutes into the game, we're like,
first pass.
"Oh!" I was like, "Well,
yeah.
there went that."
Me and Alec were waiting on the game, and the channel we were waiting on had Eastern Michigan and Toledo playing before it, and Eastern Michigan almost had the greatest upset in college football. They threw a Hail Mary on the last play to give them the chance to tie it with a PAT, and they went for 2 and didn't get it. But me and Alec are both, they were home, and I thought it was a little weird. I guess it was like, just end it.
What?
Yeah. But me and Alec were watching it in our living room, and we were like, all angry because it's like, where's the Georgia game? It's been on for 15 minutes. Yeah. And I think we had missed like 3 minutes of game time. And I was like, well, let's see if they get this Hail Mary and it makes it worth it. And it goes up, and me and Alec are like,
yeah.
And immediately, oh my God, he caught it.
Yeah.
And like everyone in the field, there's like all 20 people at the game were losing their minds.
Yeah.
And it's just like crazy, like this bizarre conference. I think it may have been the MAC conference, the Mid-Atlantic Conference. Yeah.
I would know.
And whatever they be, everybody watching it, and then they win, and then eventually we swap on to Georgia, Florida, right when Georgia starts doing, or should I say Carson starts doing Carson things. But yeah, overall that's it. And then our boy CJ Allen caught a pick. I'll save that storytelling for you as you saw it live, and that's your boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna circle back to the beginning of the game. Like I said, I was freaking out. So I was like, oh my gosh, Carson with the black sleeve, like this is great. Like, maybe the bad juju will go away. But like to your point, I mean, we don't have Brock or Ladd, like 2 safety net receivers that we've had for years in the past. But then it's also like, as much as we miss their talent, it's almost like it kind of shows on Carson a little bit more, like, because like you said, a lot of times people make the argument that if the ball hits your hands, you should catch it.
Yes.
And it's like, yes, but also no. Because like, if the throw is a little bit more accurate, the catch is made. I feel like we've had a lot of drops this year that could go, like, I feel like the fault is on both guys. Because, like, for example, there's one that Dylan Bell had against, I think it was like Texas. We had thrown to him, and it was like a miscommunication. Then we threw to him again right after. And, like, he's jumping in the air, twisting this way, trying to catch the ball when he's running this direction. And it hit him in the hands.
Yeah.
And so people are like, oh, if it hits your hands, you should catch it. But it's like trying to focus on running the right route, jumping, twisting your body to catch the ball, not getting lit up by a DB who's been sitting back here waiting for his moment. Like, I'm just like, there's a lot going on there that you can't just say, oh, he should have caught the ball. It's like, well, if it was a better throw, then he probably would have. That said, it's like nothing's ever going to be perfect. I mean, perfect throws happen, but very rarely.
Yeah.
And if the perfect throw was thrown, then the route was, not perfect. I mean, it's never going to be exact. And so I just feel like now, because we had Brock as a safety net who, if you threw the ball within 6 feet of him, he's going to figure out a way to catch it.
Yeah.
Whether it's high, low, under the ground, whatever, he's going to figure it out. Now it like shows a little bit more that like maybe Carson is not as accurate as we kind of thought he was because he had the receivers that he did. That said, I for one have not lost all faith in Carson Beck. I think that there was a lot of I think that throughout this season, there's been an adjustment period as a whole because, once again, he's missing 2 key guys that he's been used to playing with for years. That said, I think that, like, when it's come down to it, he's gotten the job done. But then you factor in specifically the case of the Florida game. This is a home game for him. Home game for him. This man is from Jacksonville. He himself has talked about how much more this game means to him than, like, other games. And it's like, regardless of the fact that this man is one of the most composed athletes that I've ever known, sometimes almost too composed in a sense, and where it feels like, why are you like showing no emotion whatsoever? Like, why are you not? It feels like he's disconnected because he's so composed, but that's just his way that he processes things. It's like, even with someone like that, the amount of pressure that has to be on you, obviously as a whole, you're a D1 quarterback and you're playing at Georgia. What? Like, you're going to have pressure no matter what. But then, when you think of it being a home game and all this stuff, like, I feel like there's no way you can't put more pressure on yourself, especially when you've not been having the best games anyways, to try to be perfect. And in sticky situations, trying to be perfect can feel like trying to force something, because if it works, you're that guy. But, like, in most of these cases, it didn't work. And I feel like that's where we talk about, like, his kind of decision-making not having been the best or whatever. It's like, yes, like, he's throwing people into double and triple coverage. But it's like, if that pass gets through, it's like top 10. It's like it's, you know, everyone's losing it. It's just a matter of, do you force it or not? That all said, getting off of just Carson Beck, I think overall the Florida game was much more challenging than I think anyone expected it to be. That said, I think that it's very, I mean, we hadn't planned to play against the third string quarterback, right? It's like, now they have to be a lot more run heavy, you think, but then it's like, it basically automatically becomes exactly what people say all the time, which is run the ball to throw the ball. Well, it's like, now, in their heads, they're thinking that we're thinking, because we probably are, they're going to run the ball 9 times out of 10. So we're just preparing for the run. So then that opens it up for, like, short, quick passes, which is exactly what everybody does all the time. I don't know. I think that obviously the interceptions were some of the mishaps, but overall, I think our team, given the opportunities that Florida had, like, our defense, I feel like, played pretty well. And then, again, our offense got done what needed to be done. I feel like that's what it's always been with Georgia's offense, not just this year. Like, we've always been a not super just going to, like, blow teams out offensively. I think that a lot of times in the past, especially these past, like, 2-3 years that we've had times when we have these huge leads, it's because we forced so many turnovers on the defensive side of the ball. If you give anybody the ball enough times, they're going to score. And so I kind of feel like that also played in with Florida. Like, did we expect to be tied with them midway through the fourth quarter? Absolutely not. But when coming out in, like, the second half of that game, like, third into midway through the fourth quarter, we had 3 and out after 3 and out. If you give anyone the ball enough times, they're going to score, right? So, I don't know. I think that, like, as much as I feel like our defense, I feel like on both sides of the ball, we're getting the job done. We're not being excellent in any sense. That said, what was excellent, like he said, was C.J. Allen's interception, which the weirdest thing about that is the fact that my mom called it when we got there. Literally, we're walking in, like, we're about to scan our tickets or whatever, and she goes, I don't know what it is, but I have a feeling that CJ is going to get an interception today. I think it's going to be a pick 6. And I was like, I mean, a pick 6 would be great, but,
Six
like,
would be nice.
An interception alone, you know, she was like, I don't know, I just feel like today's going to be his day. And I was like, all right, well, I'm hoping you're right, but, you know, you never know or whatever. I'm like, I feel like our linebackers are not typically playing positions where, or in position where, like, they're going to typically get, like, a pick, like, in any case, right? But I was like, you know, let's, you know, hope for the best, Mom. And so it was so funny because literally, like, it's almost like his pick kind of, like, sealed the game, like that, really, because it's like he got it or whatever right when we had just gone back up 20-27 or whatever. We were up, and it was like, okay, this is Florida's chance to, like, tie this as the game's coming to a close. There was, like, less than, like, 5 minutes left or something like that. And then literally this man catches the ball, gives it to us on like the 30 or something like that.
Yeah.
And we in 2 or 3 plays score. And so that kind of sealed the deal. I was like, this is literally amazing. My mom cried. She was like, I knew it. I got it. I was like, you literally did. That's kind of weird. I wish we would have videoed her saying that early on, because it's I can say it all I want. She can say it all I want. Both of us know she said it, but it's seriously. But it's no, truly. She said that it was going to happen, and then it did. So, props to CJ.
He did have a really good day. He had 8 tackles along with that.
Yeah.
And the interception was a really good read, because he was, if I remember it, he was covering down low, read the quarterback's eyes and backed up and jumped and caught it.
Yeah.
It was a good read.
He said he just jumped up in the air and was just hoping the ball
hit his hands.
And he's like, I came down with it. I was like, all right.
Did he say that to you personally or in press conferences?
No, he said it in the press conference.
Okay.
But it's just funny that's the only way that he can express kind of walking through it. It's just he was just well, let's hope for the best. Jumped up there and came down with the ball.
Well, it's funny because I think if you are listening to our podcast and you're not from Lamar County, you probably don't know that CJ played running back in high school.
Oh, yeah.
And watching him juke the first guy, I was like, I did think he was going to take it for a 6, and I was like, oh my God, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
It's he was a really good running back in high school. Was he a Division I running back? No, he was a Division I linebacker. But it's he was fully capable of putting some moves on some people and making things happen.
No, I was literally okay, CJ, you got the ball in your hands. Now let's lock in.
Yeah.
It's high school. This is Lamar County. All right, you're in Barnesville right now. You're on the 20. Let's go.
Pike County has a bunch of 6'8", 300-pound linemen running for you who've never made a tackle.
It's let's go. But it was crazy. So I really just was super happy for him. Obviously, in that moment, it was wild. And it was funny because we'd already told the people around us, because we had already been excessively cheering every time that he did anything. We were like, we know him, so sorry about it, but you're going to have to deal. Then that happens, and they were like, oh, yeah, it's your guy or whatever. We were like, yeah it's our guy.
It's your guy.
That's the man, right? It was crazy.
Yeah. But good for him.
So, yeah, that's that as far as me raving about CJ. But, yeah, like I said, overall the game was the game. We did what we had to do.
Yeah.
And we got out of it. There were some other crazy games that happened in college, but I'll let you take so that I can try to figure out what it was that I was going to talk about.
Oh, okay. Eastern Michigan, Toledo, huge game. That was a lot of fun. I know for a fact the only way you were watching it is if you were trying to turn on the Georgia game and that was the channel it was on. I asked Alec, I was like, what do you think the viewership changes on this game right before people are tuning in to see the Georgia game?
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder how many people join in. Oregon beats Michigan. That was fun. Ohio State beats Penn State. Oh my God. I don't know if that was a surprise. I think people probably thought it was going to be by more. I think in the top 5, Penn State was kind of the team that was like, oh.
I'll share my favorite.
Probably the fraud. Which one's your
Can I
favorite?
give my favorite?
Yeah, what's your favorite?
South Carolina beating Texas A&M.
Yeah. Yeah, they were in Texas A&M, right?
That means there's no more.
Or no, they were in South Carolina.
Teams in the SEC.
Ooh. They were in South Carolina, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Madison's my best friend who goes to South Carolina for grad school, even though she's a dog at heart. And she was saying that some of her friends or whatever were at the game and that they were like, we're going to storm the field. We're going to storm the field. I think they actually did it. So
they did.
Props to them.
They did.
But yeah, South Carolina beating Texas A&M means there's no longer an undefeated team in the SEC, which means that we can now be number 1 if we want it bad enough.
Yeah. Also, I want to shout this out. Louisville upsets Clemson. 1, at Dakota. Clemson lost to Louisville. 2, Savannah's fiance is a quarterback there. So congrats to them.
Literally, it's so funny because I think that Savannah forgot that Dakota went there.
Oh, that's so funny.
And so kind of to be funny, he was like, oh, how was the game? And she was like, oh my God, it was so great. We did so good. We won, we blah, blah. And he was just sitting there and literally Savannah's like, ooh. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm cracking up because I'm like, this is hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, no, that was crazy because they were 11 and Louisville's not ranked. And it's where are they now?
And I am so glad to see that Savannah was able to make it for that game because that was a fun one, I think, to be at as a opposing fan. She said that the fans in Clemson were weirdly nice, though.
Yeah, she did say that. It was funny.
I was like, interesting.
She was like, we got there, and they were like, oh my gosh, welcome to Clemson. And then when they won, she was like, oh, they're going to be mad now. They were like, congrats on the win. We'll get you next time.
Yeah, it was weird. Oh, somebody who does watch our podcast, made a comment to I think the comment was about tell Noah to stop barking at babies. Shut up. I will bark at your child.
Stop barking at babies.
I will fully bark at your child.
Tell Noah to start barking at babies.
You bring them to Athens, I'm barking at them.
That is hilarious.
I will bark at anything that moves in Athens, Georgia. Again, I'm nice. I won't bark if I'm on an away game. But if you're in Athens, it's your own fault. You did that to your kids. You traumatized them, not me.
That's you traumatize them, not me. That's absurd.
So yeah, that's the other one. And then Army beats Air Force. Kind of saw that one coming. Minnesota upsets Illinois. And then Ole Miss whacked Arkansas. But that's kind of what Ole Miss is doing, is putting up numbers this year with Jackson Dart. Putting up numbers. With Jackson Dart throwing like 500-yard games. SMU beats Pitt. I don't know. People like SMU, and they lost to, or they like beat Nevada by like nothing at the beginning of the year, or they lost. I can't remember. They beat Nevada by 5 points at the beginning of the year. Like, I just can't hop on the train of them being good. And also, I'm pretty sure they just paid their way into the ACC.
Stop.
Oh, I'm not. Stop. It's true. Sorry.
Stop.
Texas Tech upsets Iowa State by 1 point. They're throwing tortillas on the field.
That's hilarious.
It's a Texas Tech thing. I think that's all the important games. Miami upset Duke. The Miami player punched the living crap out of the Duke player. Have you seen that clip?
I don't think so.
He goes to punch the ball, and the Duke player's head comes down, and he catches the face mask, and his head just... Doom.
That's crazy.
And, like, everybody says, oh, his hand must hurt. Like, he hit his helmet. Like, he has a helmet on. No, that man's neck goes... Bang.
That's crazy.
I tell you, that did not feel good. He's feeling that today.
That's funny.
As someone who has been punched in the face, that does not feel good.
I can't believe Penn State dropped as far as they did. Lost to Ohio
what's
State.
the new ranks?
They went to 6. What? So now it's
Who
Oregon.
moved up?
Miami's 4th now.
What?
Yeah. So it goes Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Ohio State 3, Miami 4, Texas 5, Penn State 6.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Tennessee 7.
I don't know if Tennessee's looked shaky. I don't know if I like Texas at 5, but I don't see why they shouldn't be at 5.
Never mind.
What?
Never mind. SMU is 13th, by the way.
It's good. Keep them out of the top 12.
Screaming.
They don't deserve it.
Boise State is 12.
Good for them. Genty is a dog, and he's going to carry them to one game in the playoffs where they will lose.
Stop.
And then he will have his Heisman Trophy and his one appearance in the playoffs and be happy.
We are currently first in the SEC.
Yep.
Love that for us.
That's good.
Knew that as soon as Texas
But we have to play
A&M
Ole
got out of
Miss.
the way. We do have to play Ole Miss. You want to talk about that?
Are we moving on? Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say. Also, Carson got a lock in. Tell Noah quotes of the year. Last thing, no, I actually did look, after looking at stats, no, actually Homeboy for Florida played horrendous. I'm going back on that comment. He threw 7 for like 20-something. It was like 30% passing percentage. It was rough.
But once again, like I feel like as far as what I don't think anyone was expecting him to come in and like win the game.
Yeah, but 7 for 22 is rough.
He had us questioning at the end.
Don't care. You're not. Their running backs did really good.
I will definitely agree with that.
One person we did not shout out, Nate Frazier, repped that number 3 hard this past weekend. Mm-hmm. So definitely excited to see him play a little more.
Yeah.
And anything else through stats? Nope. Good job, Sheeta.
We want to move on to Ole Miss now?
Ole Miss.
Okay, so I'm sure you have the exact same thing pulled up as I do, but basically
Yes.
the key thing here is that Jackson Dart is lighting people up when it comes to just yards per game.
Yeah.
That said, like, I'm like, okay, it is what it is. Like, you have a very pass-heavy offense. You're going to have more yards than we do. But he has, on the year, almost 1,000 more yards than Carson does. Which, again, we have a very run-heavy offense in a lot of cases.
Well, this year we've passed a lot more.
Yeah, so honestly, in most cases, this would be a lot bigger of a gap.
I think the thing that makes us different is we do not run up the score as much, and we will play down to a team's talent a lot more. But
You're the second person that's told me that in like 3 days.
yeah, Ole Miss beat Furman 76-0, so they're not taking their foot off the gas. And he threw for 418 yards. Middle Tennessee, he threw for 377. They won 52-3. Wake 40-6. Georgia Southern 52-13. Arkansas 63-31. They'll run the score up. And he puts up these 350-plus yard games consistently.
Which is terrifying for us.
Yeah, but our DBs have locked in a little bit more, I think, as the season's gone on.
Yeah.
Whereas early on in the year, it was like, ooh.
Post Bama, I think they have definitely.
Yeah, and I think we're figuring it out a little bit. So I don't think he's going to pass for 350 yards against us. I think it'll be in the 200 to 350 range.
Yeah, that said, like the thing that still scares me about that, mainly when I just compare quarterback to quarterback, is our DBs, especially initially, were more of a weakness for us.
Yes.
Or not a weakness. That's a
early on in this year they were.
They were more like they just weren't hitting as high as like maybe the D-line, right? That said, the man has to have some stupid accuracy. If he's only thrown 3 interceptions on the year. Interceptions. 3 interceptions on the year, and he's got that many passing yards.
Yeah.
Now, again, you have to look at who he's playing, whatever, blah, 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 whatever. But, like, he has 3, and thus far, Carson Beck has 11, right? Not saying that that's something that you compare, because we have already discussed in vivid detail the fact that Carson has some other things that are factoring in.
I think the worst part is that he can throw these interceptions, and we keep winning games, and it's like, if you protected the ball, how much would we be winning by?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
How much more comfortable would we be?
Yep.
And I will say, like, against Florida, he threw some balls that he shouldn't have, going back to that a little bit, which I wish I didn't. But he threw some balls he shouldn't, and when he started, like, taking the sack or taking the run, he took a sack after one of the interceptions. I was like, thank God. Because they showed the camera view, like, of behind him, no one was open. And I was like, that was the correct decision. I was like, maybe you should have got out of the pocket and ran a little bit or thrown it away. But, like, I would much rather you do what you just did than throw another interception or throw a ball to a receiver that is way too covered to get a football.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's been a lot of times when I'm like, why don't we... It's so rare, I feel like, that Carson will just throw the ball away. It's like, throw it away. Like,
and I don't want to get super
not wanting
comfortable.
to take the sack.
Yeah.
I get that. Like, that makes sense. But, like, instead of forcing it, especially when it's first down, which Kirby made this point, just lose the down, throw the ball out of bounds, keep the yardage that we already had. So you're not taking a loss by having a sack, and we're not taking the biggest loss, which is getting an interception. It's just like, what are we doing? But whatever. Like, everybody knows it. He knows it. I do believe he will be better.
I want the comeback. I want it. Like, I'm not someone who's calling for a Gunnar Stockton start.
Yeah, me either.
Maybe
a start. That's for sure not a start.
Maybe in games, I've been like, an Alabama game, I was like, dude, you got to put Gunnar in.
Yeah.
Because he just off his mojo at that point. But I think there's a level of, like, he's got to get back to it. Somebody compared him to Jake Fromm in the sense of, like, he had so much promise last year, and he's either flatlined or kind of declined a little bit in what we thought of him, and kind of had the same thing with Jake Fromm where he was like, oh my God, he's going to do it. He's going to be this great Georgia quarterback. And he kind of flatlined out, and I was like, no, he's a really good quarterback, but that's what he is. He's not going to be like a first-round pick. And I feel bad for Carson in the sense of, like, he has lost so much money since the start of the season just in his draft stock because of the games and interceptions he's throwing. Because making these decisions is a big issue when even moving to the next level, because some of the DBs he's throwing on aren't like top prospect DBs.
Yeah.
They're just defenders. Some of them might do insurance in 3 years, and he's throwing the ball straight to them.
Stop.
And so I would love to see him lock in a little bit, because, I mean, he's played good before. And it's like, I think going forward, especially to Ole Miss, which is going to be a difficult game away, you know, he did it against Texas, even with the interceptions in Texas. Can he go to Ole Miss, clean up his game, and pull a win out without Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey this year? And do we get to a point where he is able to get back to, like, last year's form without those players there?
Yeah, I think that staying on the Mississippi game, I think that we are going to have one of the strongest defenses, if not the strongest defense, even with our weaknesses per se, that Ole Miss has seen by potentially a long shot, right? The only other team that I'd say is comparable to us defensively is Kentucky, and they lost. They lost to Kentucky. They lost to Ole Miss, or not Ole Miss, sorry. They lost to LSU. But that was a funny situation. That game was kind of crazy. And so I won't even necessarily count that one because that literally could have gone either way by a long shot. But I think that our defense is right there with, if not better than Kentucky. I would definitely always have said better. But just like for the sake of saking and making the argument, we have, I think in theory we have to be at least even with them. And so... let's see what happens there. I will say, as far as our receivers go, comparing season leaders, like ours is Arian Smith and theirs is someone's last name Harris. I don't know his first name. I don't care to click on it to figure it out. Trey Harris. It's almost identical because...
Well, outside of the yards.
Well, not
I
even.
guess it like double. It's like, yeah, I get what you're saying.
So, basically, Arian has half the receptions and half the yards and half the touchdowns exactly, almost. And so it's like they're very, very similar, which I just think is interesting to know. Obviously, that's not going to have anything to do with anything in the sense of like it's not like that we're going to switch and be like, oh, can you play whatever. But it's just like very interesting to me to think that like if all goes well, at the bare minimum, we can balance him out with just Arian.
Hopefully. The other thing I would say going to Ole Miss, the biggest thing that makes our pass defense so much better since Alabama is our pass pressure has gotten home more often. Jalen Walker and Michael Williams coming back from injury after some time, and Jalen Walker turning up saying, I'm going to be the generational player and look like prime J.J. Watt. That has done a lot to help the pass coverage, because when you put a QB under pressure and they can't just sit in the pocket, it forces decisions, it forces them to make a play, whereas if you give them more time, it's like, sit there. So if we can continue to keep pass pressure up, even if it's not getting the sack, if it's just pressures, that will help us tremendously against this pass-heavy offense with a Heisman-level quarterback who is putting up insane numbers every week.
Yeah. You saying that made me think about something that I forgot to mention that was on the Florida game. So jumping back to that real quick, as far as like our defense kind of being whole again, that was your point basically there. I will say I feel like our second half defensively we were much better across the board. And one thing I didn't think about to say, I thought about it in the moment, is Dan Jackson being back on the field.
Yeah, that was a big piece.
1,000% a huge piece.
Engine.
He has been our best defensive player consistently across the board this entire year. And so just having the mental relief of knowing that he's back there, imagine how much that did for like our line, for guys like Jalen, for guys like Michael, to be able to be like, okay, I can lock in because if this man gets this ball out, we have our normal, typical people in position that we didn't have to start the game because of the whole targeting thing or whatever. And so it's like, literally, I don't know if they did this on purpose, but like defense goes on the field or whatever, and then Dan was like the last person to step out there. So we were cheering. It's like, yeah, woo, because it's like, our first defensive, or it was the first drive of the second half because they had the ball first. Defense goes out there. We're like, yeah, like, let's go. Dan steps on the field, and it just levels up, like the energy as a whole. And it was like, yeah, it was like everybody was like, oh my gosh, like he's back.
I wanted to call him Ginger Jesus, but
he's not Ginger.
Yeah, he's not.
He is not.
And for some reason, I thought he was.
Nope.
Maybe he's got a little bit of red in the beard, which he's always got the Scully on, like the cap on his hair. So maybe the beard is giving me the sense of that. But honorary Ginger Jesus.
Stop. Anywho, so he came in, and even if he didn't really have that much like physical impact in the sense of like, oh, he wasn't intercepting, he wasn't, all this and the third. It was just like his presence alone, I feel like made us more comfortable. And so as a whole, obviously, like I said, defensively, I feel like we did better across the board in the second half. The one thing that we didn't do is we let them score again. But again, if you give anybody the ball enough times, they're going to score. And that's what happened. I feel like defensively we came out clicking second half of that game, but offensively we came out a little bit slow. That all said, jumping back to Mississippi State again. Mississippi State. Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
One of the Mississippi teams. Anyways, yeah. So I am definitely nervy, but I'm always nervy. And I'm always nervy because I feel like if I'm not nervy, it's going to come back to bite me. And I mean, not that this is a Georgia basketball podcast, but I was the same way yesterday at the Georgia basketball game. Like, for our men's team. Like, I was like,
Want to know.
In theory, we're supposed to be like, you know, bounds and leaps ahead of potentially where we have been years past and whatnot.
We say that every year.
This year, for real.
I know, but we say that every year.
I don't think I didn't say it last year.
It can't.
Or the year before.
I thought, well, we also started winning last year, so I was not saying it preseason. I was saying it like mid-season. It was like,
but yeah, no. So I think that, you know, going into that game, non-conference matchup or whatever, I was still like, I'm nervy. And everybody was like, what are you nervous for? Don't be stupid. We're going to win by like 8,000. And I was like, I don't care. Because if I'm not nervy, guess what?
Yep.
So, yeah. That all said, Ole Miss has 2 losses. We're hoping to give them a third. Because
I'm trying to work through score predictions in my head right now. We're not there yet.
I will definitely say, technically, matchup predictor, not necessarily game odds, but matchup predictor has us predicted to lose.
Yeah,
again.
And then odds have us to win. So,
which is weird.
It's always like
that. Because that was the same way for which game?
Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's because, you know.
Hey.
I think, again, we are like rats with our backs against the wall. We fight good when put under pressure. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to stick with that. The rats backs against the wall. Yeah. So I'm excited. I am also in the realm of nervy of Texas. I'm not as nervy as I was for Texas. I don't think my score prediction is going to have us losing again. But I am nervy. I think we'll win. But I think it'll take some serious lock-inery from our team. And I think we can pull it out. I would love to see us go and win. I think if the fans travel, we have a much better chance of winning. Fans travel to Texas really well, so loud that people heard it on broadcast, people cheering. And that was not just because of a camera. There were fans scattered everywhere at that game. Whereas Ole Miss is not as cool of like a city to go check out. I think it's Oxford, Mississippi. Whereas Austin, pretty cool place. And it's the first time they play in the SEC against us, so obviously people will travel. But I think if people travel to this game at the same level that they did, or a similar level that they did to Texas, we'll have a good chance to ride some momentum waves of our fans and give Ole Miss a good fight. Also, their mascot's a shark.
Hello?
They're landlocked. It's actually a cool story. Go look that up.
Are you ready for score predictions?
I can be. You type something out.
Oh, by the way, his point right there, not to be like, it makes absolutely no sense, but we could play on the moon and Georgia's going to travel. So
yeah, but I think Texas it felt like there were a lot more people in Texas than there were for Alabama. It felt like there was a way bigger Georgia presence in Texas. Like, that stadium was red. Dogs always travel.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people were at that game. There's a lot more pressure to go to that game. Texas, first season in the SEC. Austin, really cool city.
Oh, okay. That's what I wrote down. I wrote down first time playing against us in the SEC. I was like, what? Because I thought you were talking about Ole Miss at that point.
No,
I thought you had
talking about
switched
Texas.
over.
Nope.
So I was like, what are we doing? Okay, score prediction time.
Beep, 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 beep. Correct score. Predicted. I have no idea.
Neither.
I have a range. I'm just trying to get it in. You can type yours in the doc.
Wait,
and
hold on.
I won't look.
What are we? What's like the?
Got it. Got it. No, I don't like that.
Golly, this is hard.
I think I got it.
All right, I got mine too.
Okay. Who score first?
Our score first.
I score first. All right.
Wait, do I got it?
Brother. Come on, man. Log in.
All right.
Numbers and numbers. Worst case scenario.
All right.
You pay me $50.
I got it. Stop.
I
All
will
right.
start.
Our score first.
31.
I'm changing mine. I'm going 27.
Sucker.
I was between. I have like /24/27.
Okay, their score.
27.
Their score.
Their score. 1, 2, 3,
24.
17. Yeah. I'm going 27.
The
to
spread is
17.
2.5.
I'm going 27-17. You said
10.
31 to 24?
Yeah. So mine's a touchdown difference.
Yep.
I don't know how I feel.
Well,
I didn't feel nervy until I started looking at the numbers. I'm like, all right,
yeah,
well, that's
so that's what that is. Anyways, I'm good if you're good.
it. I am so good.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of Dooley's Dog Pod. I'm Donna Trailer.
I'm Noah Bies.
And we will talk to y'all next week. That's all I got.
That's all I got.
Peace out. Go Dogs.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.